Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. All right, everybody, welcome. Today, I have a very special guest, Jeff Gannon, the professor, of Building Construction Technologies over at CCCC, which is Central Carolina Community College, and that's located in Pittsboro, North Carolina. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is very, very cool that you're here. I really appreciate you making the time. I know we had quite a few scheduling snafus,
Yes.
but and then COVID struck, I think,
It's been
both of
busy.
our families.
Yes, yeah. Oh, man, laid me up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was, this was my first round of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I spent probably like 13 days dying.
Oh,
2
yeah.
days hard of breath.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, also on 1 foot due to surgery. So it was like,
Oh, no.
I was really down for the count.
Oh,
and this is
man.
like, just to be able to be doing this is like a sense of normality, and it's great. So
Well,
we're just really happy that you're here. Let's go ahead and jump right in. How did you become a professor?
So I've kind of had a wandering career. I did my undergrad, American University up in D.C., but long story short, sort of found myself in an MFA program at UNCG in studio art.
Okay.
And I'm admiring all the artwork that you've had around here. And about halfway through that program, I stumbled onto Samuel Mockbee in the Rural Studio, and was like, dang, I should have gone into architecture. But I was already halfway through this MFA program and doing well in it and thoroughly enjoying myself. So I finished the program, and I was going to say I jumped straight to GC, and it's not quite true. I did buy my first house as soon as I got done, a old farmhouse that was built turn of the century that, I mean, the rain was coming through the roof.
Sounds like a great project to me.
Dude,
yeah.
it was a beauty, and every bit of it was tongue and groove boards. A lot of it beadboard with the old linen wallpaper.
Yeah, so you have no plywood.
Yeah, no plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so set about restoring that house while for income, I was also doing some tree care. I was also certified arborist. And so I was doing tree care for income, but on my spare time working on this old house.
Maybe you could clarify for both me and listeners, what's the difference between a tree trimmer and an arborist?
Oh, dude, all the difference in the world.
Because to me, it sounds like a tree trimmer you call them when you want it gone.
Yes.
An arborist
Yes.
is like, I'll make sure it's healthy.
Exactly.
And I'll shape it, but not remove it. And I care about the tree's health more than as a priority, I should say.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Tree trimmer cut a tree down just fine. Hopefully, as long as they got insurance, the tree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just like construction, the tree care industry, the spectrum is wide, and you want to get somebody that's qualified.
Yeah. Well, depending on the job,
Yeah, depending on the
tree in the
job.
middle of a field, you can get a less qualified person than a tree that is surrounded by 3 sheds that you don't want touched.
Exactly.
Like you need a different person. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And I in my undergrad I became a certified arborist, and it was a great occupation. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Made the full-time leap into construction when my wife got pregnant and was like, hey buddy, you got to get out of that tree climbing business. So made the leap into construction, and with an art background. So aesthetics have always been really important to me. Aesthetics and materials, that whole form versus function has always been a very important part of, like the decision-making process. And I think I was able to bring that to clients in a way that, they appreciated and were able to benefit from, on various projects. I started small with, like decks and additions, and worked my way up to full house remodels or new construction. Did the whole gamut, and did that for a number of years. And then in 2015, had this opportunity. So I was working in partnership with the local community college, which got a grant from Duke to start building a small house as a educational tool for their sustainable tech students.
Okay.
And so they were teaching energy modeling.
Just to backtrack that, so I think I understand exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You're going to build a real house
Yeah.
that would get a real person at the end, but the building experience would be using some higher energy rated processes and materials to use in partner as an education.
You got it.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
Cool.
It's
just
like
making sure I understood.
No. Yeah. It's sort of like I'm in telling this story, I'm like compressing a whole lot of.
Well, you can compress or decompress as much. We don't have a time frame here.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I should. All right. So then if we're going to like decompress, as a builder, I was always interested in sustainability.
Yeah.
That's been like a thread throughout my whole life.
I definitely share that thread. I feel like I'm blanking on the name, but
Roxanne,
who put us in touch.
Yeah,
I feel like I told her that, and she was like, "Oh, well, you need to talk to Jeff."
Yeah,
and I was like, "I need to talk to anybody you want to put me in touch with."
Oh yeah. Roxanne's fantastic. Yeah. Roxanne, like she, being the person that put us together, she was a student of mine.
Yeah,
and then she left the program and went on to work. Oh shucks, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the lobbying organization that was basically working to increase energy efficiency codes in North Carolina.
Well, that's how I found her, because I had a buddy of mine. He was like, you should just reach out to Durham government agencies of any kind. And I was like, that's a great thing. And then before I could even start, he sent me a link, like 5 links, I should say.
Oh man, fantastic.
And one of them was, the environmental offices of Durham or something like that. And I just called and was like, hey, I want to talk to anybody. Anybody will talk to me. And I got basically a no. And then I got an email that was like, we heard that you had called and
we'd love to. And I was like, I'd love to as well. And then next thing I know, I remember walking out of the DMV and she calls me and I'm like, well, can you text me? She's like, I'm going to email chain you and Jeff right now, and boom, boom, boom. And there you go. And like,
that's how it happened.
And that's how it happens.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, that's awesome.
It's very cool. But sorry, just to keep it on track. So as a GC, you're very into sustainability.
Yeah, sustainability, looking at the building equation as how do you achieve, all right, first, of course, you always got budget, client's budget.
Yeah, step one.
But step one. And then step two, what's their vision? And then step three, what is the most sustainable way to get there?
Yeah.
And so over the years, some of the things I've done have been like, constructed with SIP panels,
What's a SIP panel?
So
Stop right there.
Panel, okay, so a SIP panel is a structural insulated panel. So you're building your exterior walls not with studs, but the way I sort of explain it, it's kind of like an ice cream sandwich of OSB, so a skin of sheathing with a rigid insulation product in the middle, and then a skin of sheathing on the inside too. So you got
and it's like 8 inches thick,
or so it can be from 4.5 inches thick to whatever.
And they come in like a full sheet panel.
They come in typically 4 feet wide or 8 feet wide. And then sometimes you can get bigger than that, but getting bigger than that is really cumbersome. The 4 and the 8s, 2-3 people can sort of wrestle these big wall panels.
Okay.
You stand them up and they sort of key together.
Yeah. So I know what these are from like visual on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah,
but I didn't know what they were called.
You'll see them
Do
on
they
Instagram.
come just as the full sheet, or is it like you have to send them the plans and they're pre-cut out, windows, doors, all that?
You can do either one.
Either one. Okay.
So either one. And so the first new construction house I did, which was our house in Chatham County, when we moved from that old farmhouse I was telling you about was in Randolph County.
Okay.
And then we bought some land in Chatham. We moved over to Chatham and built a pretty small, modest, like 1,000 square foot, but high performance house.
Okay.
And
So
we
you've
built
done
it out of SIPs.
So you've done a renovation of a farmhouse and you've done a new construction.
Yeah, at that point.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's pause that because I want to talk about both of those in more detail.
Yeah, you bet.
So just continuing on the time frame, the GC life where your interest is bleeding into basically how do I save money and build environmentally friendly houses, not to simplify it, but to kind of simplify it.
Yeah, totally.
And then that progression then leads you into teaching how to make environmentally friendly homes.
Exactly. Well, first I go and do it for a while.
Being building the home, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And with my GC license and working for other clients, and then so it's I guess I had almost a 15-year career building for as my sole proprietor LLC, and then in 2015 I did this way over the top kitchen renovation job in Raleigh that just was so exorbitant, and it's sort of like okay, this is a little much. I'm ready for something else. And then this opportunity to start a construction program at this community college it fell in my lap, and it hit me at just the right moment with my career that I was looking for a change. My kids were kind of young, like they were still, I guess they were like not quite teenagers yet. So I leapt and took that job and have not regretted one bit of it. Love working with all kinds of folks. Roxanne, I mean, like my students, it's such a hodgepodge group. You couldn't pinpoint like a single demographic. It's from all over the board, from folks straight out of high school to, I think one time my oldest student was probably I think she was 72 years old, and she was a badass.
Wow, that is a remarkable range.
Yeah, Joyce.
So Can we talk about your
Sure.
program a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
so-
of course, we can talk about anything.
So my first immediate question is, why is somebody taking your class?
So the bulk. So I think there's two things. Young folks looking to get into it as a career,
Okay.
or there's three things. Young folks looking to get into it as a career. Folks mid-career looking for a change, and then folks at the tail end of careers looking for a little something else. So,
And the it that you provided, you're not, okay, I'll teach you how to be a general contractor.
No.
That's not what you're offering.
that's not what we do.
Yeah.
Although we do it. We've been running these continuing ed classes where folks can get like, take a GC prep course.
Okay.
And then go sit for the exam.
Right.
But that's not anywhere near the bulk of our program. The main focus of our program is to teach folks. We just last year, in dialogue with our employers, came up with KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, to go out there and build a house. And then we don't want folks, I want to teach folks how to just build a house, like conventional, straight up, where they can go get a job just about anywhere. But then I also teach them how to build a house better. How to build a house better is what is like my jam. Like that's what I get really excited about. And then we do it. We build a small house, and it's a small house. It's 576 square feet of enclosed space, with a porch, that is high performance. And I think there's about 9 different classes that get hands-on learning on that build.
And who gets the house? Like someone from
then,
Habitat?
So historically, at the end of our build, so we build this house, we usually start it in the fall and we finish it in the summer. So we fall, spring, summer, 3 semesters. And then at the end of that summer semester, we auction it off.
Oh, okay.
And then that sort of replaces our pot of money to do it all over again that following fall. This year, we've changed our model, and we're building a house for Habitat.
Okay.
So we're not auctioning it this year.
No.
We have a house that we're getting ready to auction here in January from last year's build, that we ran into some like bureaucracy.
So Habitat will just pay you for the future
So
house.
this year, Habitat will pay us for the
They
house.
can afford to pay you.
It can afford to pay us.
Yeah.
And
They're
they're fine.
I worked for Habitat.
Oh yeah,
I actually had a good time. I went and did we were building houses from the ground up, obviously, for people in need, but it was in Romania. Of all places.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
So, I show up and I get a text from the person like, hey, we're in the hotel lounge, or come on down. I'd been there like a day before and I'm on the wrong time zone. We're in Budapest, and we meet all these like strangers from, literally like guys from Ireland, dude from China, a bunch of Americans, obviously.
Way.
And they're like, cool, have dinner. We're busing tomorrow to Romania. And then, it was some low class digs.
Wow.
And we were grunt workers.
Yeah.
Like it was not a luxury photo shoot type of thing.
Did you have nail guns and circular saws, or was this all hand tools?
So there was definitely a low amount of electrical
Yeah.
stuff. So I remember the first day, I hate to even admit it, but I was too dehydrated after only 3 hours on this roof.
Oh man.
And I was just not hydrated correctly, prepped correctly, on low sleep, ended up having to stop at lunch and go get sick and sleep.
Yeah.
But we were roofing with just hammers.
Yeah.
So
all hand nailing.
terracotta.
Yeah. With terracotta roof
Or
shingle.
maybe it might have been the shale. I don't know, but it was no electricity. And then
and it wasn't asphalt shingles. It was
it was not 3-tab. No. And then we did, I think I probably spent 3 or 4 days with this one guy sheetrocking, and it was we had cordless drills, but we were cutting, everything cut by hand, no roto for the outlets.
Oh yeah, right.
So it was real old school. But this guy, John, he was, this is so long ago, but he was 70. retired GC his whole life, brought his own work gloves and tool belt and tape measure.
Yeah.
And he was like, give me
From the States, huh?
Oh yeah. And he was like, give me the 6 under 18-year-olds. And we were called the Sesame Street crew. And he was like, we sheetrocked 2 houses in a day. Like it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
So fun.
Yeah.
I have been just recently I started thinking, man, that would be a great thing to offer our students, that like some sort of overseas experience. You know, the bulk of our students haven't even left North Carolina in their lives.
I would say, like, if you want to do that I could not be more supportive, but you need to work in a little bit more culture than they did. Because we worked and did nothing. Yeah. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. No,
I can't tell you one thing about Romania.
Yeah, that's not right. Like you got
we didn't like. I don't even like museums, but we didn't. I would have taken a museum.
Oh yeah,
like we did nothing.
Yeah.
Now I am fortunate enough in my personal life that my mother was like, "I've sent you to Romania. Everyone's gonna fly home, and I'm gonna put you on a train to Prague."
Oh,
and I spent 3 days in Prague, and that's where I got my culture.
Yeah,
I went around wandering Prague at 18 or 19 by myself for 3 days.
That's fantastic.
So like that's a life experience that I can't trade for anything, and that was like priceless. But if you're gonna do something like that, which I definitely think you should, because there's I mean, obviously there's suffering people literally everywhere, so you don't have to go far for that.
No.
But you could still help somebody, and you could give the person who's wanting to volunteer an incredible experience of culture from literally anywhere.
Exactly.
You know, pick a place that needs someone in help. There's too many to count. Yeah. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents. But I definitely think
I agree with you. I have always been I'm a person that enjoys having something to do. Like I'm not like the guy that enjoys just going to a bar. I would prefer to go. I like, you know, drinking a beer is great, but I want to have something to do while you drink that beer.
Right.
And or something, you know, like some other purpose to that gathering, right? And so that's cool to hear.
What do you do with your beer? Are you a baseball guy? Beer and baseball go well together.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I was a baseball guy, I would totally get the beer and baseball. You know.
Okay.
If I was a sports guy, I'm not a sports guy.
Gotcha.
But totally. Like,
do they let you walk around museums with a beer? I feel like they don't let you in.
Well, no. You got to elevate. I guess you step up to wine, right? If you're in a museum.
Do you?
I don't know.
This is a question.
Well, if it's an art show, you're drinking wine.
I don't know much about beer or wine or art shows.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
For being honest.
Yeah.
I'm low on all 3. Yeah. Give me whiskey and a hockey game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, how did you fall into like your interest for Pollock?
So I don't exactly know how. Jackson Pollock, for the reference, for anyone who doesn't know. I just know that like throughout being a young kid in school, due to geography, we took school trips to museums in New York City.
Okay.
History Museum, Art Museum, probably other museums.
Is that where you grew up, in New York City?
Not the city, but about an hour and a half north in the Hudson Valley.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would be.
Oh, dude. Do you know Storm
easy.
King?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just north of Storm King. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm from New Paltz, Highland, Poughkeepsie area.
Okay, yeah.
So Storm King, I actually almost went. I interviewed at that school.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and then it's crazy that you mentioned that actually. But yeah, they have a huge art center at Storm King as well.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
the big art school for sure.
Yep. One of my professors, and actually 2 of my professors when I was in grad school, have pieces at Storm King.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Small world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. But to answer your question, so there's a vivid memory that both my mother and I share of her losing me at the art museum.
Oh.
I'm like very young. You know, she didn't lose me. I wandered.
Yeah, right.
Let's be clear. She did nothing wrong as a mom. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And they find me, and I am on a bench alone, staring at like the giant famous Jackson Pollock in the MoMA in New York City.
That's cool.
And it spoke to me in a way I still can't like put in words, but I look at Jackson Pollock and I just see gorgeous, organized chaos.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I don't really have like more of an explanation, but I guess that is the explanation, that I have no explanation and it just moves me. And that's how you know that, like, I have very little responses to art.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, I'm talking to an artist, so you're like, "What'd you just say?"
Yeah,
but
no, not at all.
But I look at Jackson Pollock and I go, "There's something's brewing." I can't convert it into words, but there's a feeling that I get when I look at that.
Well, that's legit, man. I think that's totally legit. There's dialogue that would want that to go. I'm not into all that pomp, and but I think it's legit enough that it moves you.
Yeah. I mean, that's the end game, right? I mean, exactly. when we hear good music, the definition of good is, did it move us? There's, when you look at the top list of what it was, like, top list by who, based on what? Like, it's, does it move you? Did it not? Did it? That's really what matters. Art, a painting, it's all art, painting, music, a deck for that matter.
Yeah, totally.
There's
like
fences,
your palette wood wall in your bedroom there,
you see it, it moves you enough to take a picture and use it as inspiration. I mean,
exactly.
So, we are, it's less, glorified than an artist, but we're artists. When I do a house, I have a sense of pride that's probably similar to an artist. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know an artist. But hold on, we're just hearing the exit music that will move later.
Oh, yeah.
It's been muted. Sorry about that. So, like, it's the same feeling when, for me personally, I'm doing these houses from buy to gut to make brand new to rent to a person. Yeah. So I am seeing them and in touch with them and involved with them for years until we sell them, which we haven't sold any. Yeah. So, like, I love and care for these houses. Like, I assume an artist would love and care for their painting. Sure. But I actually have no idea, because I don't know that many professional painters. But, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, totally, man. I get it. One of the things that pushed me into, like, the building, coming out of that background of art, at the end of the day, I've told people this. It's like, if I was into pottery, like, I would have been a potter. And the reason being, that vessel you can drink out of, or you can put your food in, right? So, like, I think another thing that I'm interested in is the idea of functionality.
Oh,
and
totally.
at the end of the day, did it feed you? Did it shelter you? So housing, this is a roof over our head. And so whereas, and I'm not, bashing art by any means, because it adds and enriches our lives to so much, such depth, you know, but it didn't put that roof over your head. And I was drawn to those more basic functionalities of my work, like what I wanted to do. So that's the other component that sort of brought me into construction.
Almost like, how do you get the same emotional response in a minimalist way?
Yeah.
Like, forget about what you put on the wall. Let's start with the wall.
Yeah, let's start with the wall. Exactly. Let's start with the basics.
Yeah, let's start with the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And so just to, I guess we'll just change gears as much as we want. Who cares, totally, right? Yeah. So when we're talking about environmental practices, when you're doing a home, there are some things right off the bat that, I mean, like, you can do thicker studs. You can do spray foam insulation. You can add an entire thermal break between your, your OSB before your siding. But these are all, like, everything I just said is cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. You can add, less windows to have more insulation, but who wants that?
Oh no, you gotta bring in the natural world, man.
Right. So you bring in the natural world, which is the most inefficient part. So then you got to spend a lot of money on very, very thick, efficient windows,
Exactly.
which are useless unless you have a thick, efficient wall.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of like does, as I'm using air quotes
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But what are some of the like nobody's thinking of, even the stuff that everybody's
Yeah.
thinking of, but just
Yeah.
costs money? Like for instance,
Yeah.
like to continue the list, like everyone knows that you could put solar panels. Very
Yeah.
few people have 20 grand to blow.
Right.
Everybody
Right.
knows about
Right.
geothermal.
Yeah.
No one has 50 grand to
Oh,
blow.
yeah.
And then like the list goes on.
Exactly.
But like unfortunately it's all dollars.
Right.
And it's like, well, do you have money to light on fire, or do you have home you want to shrink?
Yeah.
Or like, what is the compromise? But before you answer what is the compromise, what are like big environmental things people can do for their home that maybe we didn't mention that are like the big ones?
So I think the biggest is, all right, so like this year we're building this habitat house, right?
Right.
And actually this year it's the first time that we get to have our house third-party certified.
Oh, okay. So you're going to get that Energy Star.
Yeah, so we're going to get Energy Star, and we're going to get System Vision. And
What's System Vision?
So System Vision is, so just like how Energy Star is a third-party credential that recognizes, say, that your appliances that your washing machine uses less water than, X number of washing machines, right? And you can, so if your washing machine uses 20% less or whatever it is, that percentage, you can, and your other components, you can then get that Energy Star certification, right? System Vision's the same idea, but looking at the whole house as that washing machine.
Oh, okay.
So the whole house has to meet certain criteria, and there's a whole checklist that you got to go through. And that whole house then, say, uses 20% less energy. That and it's important, I think, for this to be third-party verified.
Yeah, because nobody cares if you say about your own house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's so many folks out there that, I mean, well-intended, that will, say that they're doing those things, and they may be even doing those things, but unless you test it and verify it, it is not necessarily doing those things.
Oh, yeah.
So you bring in that objective person, that third party, they test it, and if you miss something, they point it out, and you have that opportunity to fix it.
Right.
Right? So that's a big deal. And you're talking about not a lot of money to verify these houses. In terms of the testing part of it, and in terms of the construction part of it, it's not that complicated. Like it needs to be demystified, and we're doing some of this in the program. Like a lot of this is just air sealing. So
that's why I love spray foam.
yeah, exactly.
That's
so
why I
spray
love
foam
spray
does
foam.
it in like one big application, right?
Yeah. Because if you do, at least in my experience, if you're doing standard sheathing, standard Tyvek, and then you spray foam that thing, if there's a gap, you're going to see a bulge in the Tyvek, but it's still going to be sealed.
Yeah, right.
It's
still
just
going to be sealed.
It's going to bulge out, but it's going to be sealed. And you just trim that, and you're airtight.
Exactly.
And watertight for that matter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you're using the closed cell spray foam. Yep. So exactly. So spray foam does it, and it's sort of like one pass. The downside to spray foam is kind of pricey.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
So especially now, so we're doing this habitat house. Habitat house is all about the budget.
Yeah.
So
though I gotta disagree a little bit. If you're doing new construction, I don't believe that spray foam is necessarily that expensive when you deduct what you're going to save on your new HVAC system.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because
Exactly.
when that HVAC system is sized based on insulation, as you well know, but this is mostly for the listener.
Yeah.
So you tell your HVAC installer, we're doing this, or this insulation, and all of a sudden the air conditioner is bigger or smaller, and that's thousands of dollars.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
yeah, exactly. You can recoup your costs.
Yeah.
On that, and then on your HVAC by increasing the performance of your wall assembly because
Yeah.
you're using spray foam. So another way to do it is to put a rigid insulation barrier on the out. This is how we're going to do it with Habitat. We're going to put a 1-inch
Like a
Dow,
foam board.
yeah, foam board, like the Dow blue board,
Yeah.
on the outside of the sheathing,
Okay.
which is then going to create a thermal break, which means that the temperature change, whatever it is on the outside, and the temperature on the inside, it's going to be more difficult for that temperature change to work its way through the wall assembly. Right?
And there's no issues with where does the Tyvek go?
So in this equation, there is no Tyvek.
Okay, so you're just gonna do stud, OSB, rigid foam board,
Yep.
and then siding.
And then siding.
So
Yep.
is there no concern of condensation buildup?
So, and where that condensation buildup would occur would be behind the siding,
Against foam board,
which is a
which is a waterproof product.
which is a waterproof product, and
Okay.
it's a vapor barrier, and that condensation then's gonna, and hopefully you've created a way for that condensation to get out.
So that has to be something that you cannot overlook.
Oh, yeah.
In this particular build. Well, you shouldn't overlook it.
You
ever.
should look at it,
But
yeah.
this is a crucial moment where if you do not, because that's a lot of condensation that
Oh,
you're
totally.
expecting.
Exactly.
And if you don't have the weep holes in the correct locations.
Yeah. So ideally, and this is, so this year, so we are at the framing stage of this new collaboration with Habitat, and we've had a little bit of a dialogue. So I would like to see on top of that blue board a rain screen. And
Which
a
is
rain
what?
screen, it can be like, if we're talking old school, a rain screen could be like strips of wood. And if we're talking new school, it's this Benjamin Opdyke. So I'll make a plug for Benjamin Opdyke, rain slicker, which is kind of like a plastic mesh that is fairly rigid, and it comes in about a 3-foot wide sheet. You nail it up on top of that blue board, and then you put your siding on top of it, and it creates an air gap.
That's what I was
you.
just thinking was the solution was
Yeah.
an air gap. Because
Yeah.
I've seen, like, again, this is cha-ching,
Yeah.
but I've seen on top of the foam board, just they'll run like basically a batten. Like a vertical
exactly,
1x3.
So you could do this the
every
same
16
idea
inches for a nailer.
exactly,
And that inch air gap
Yep.
becomes is a huge benefit.
Oh,
in
it's
the-
huge.
yeah.
It's tremendous. So now your condensation's not up against the envelope of the house. Your siding's gonna last that much longer. Like, say you're using a cement board, it's gonna last that much longer because it can dry out on the back side. Your paint is gonna last that much longer because it's sticking to a product that's drying out after if it gets wet. So
Well, there's no way for the water to stick to it, so it just corrodes that much less.
That much
Yeah.
less. So that little, like, low cost construction technique has huge benefit for that house.
So what's your opinion on the green zip board
Oh, dude,
product with the
my
tape?
favorite construction. So this year, what we just described is that Habitat build. Last year, the Chatham Cottage that we built. So that was
The one that you mentioned was for auction.
Yeah, exactly. That
Okay,
one's
yeah.
for auction. This coming January.
Where could listeners auction?
So if somebody's interested and wants to buy this, get in touch with me, Jeff Gannon at Central Carolina Community College. You could go Google that. But I'll put my email out there for the world. It's jgannon@cccc.edu. And
Easy enough.
Yeah, shoot me an email and I'll give you the info. We're still trying to nail down our final dates, but it's
Okay.
end of January.
But it'll be some public auction of
some public
kind.
auction that we're going to do the public auction online.
Cool.
It's open for a week. You can come see it. You can tour it. I'll make an appointment, or make an appointment, and I can talk to you about it. Whatever you want to do. But so the way we built that wall assembly, I really like. Well, first off, we'll back up the studs. So I'm a believer in just a plain old 2x4. I don't think you necessarily need a 2x6, and you can put those 2x4s on 24-inch centers. So you can put less of them in there. I do believe in using a double top plate. So, all right, so I guess I should, we're going to geek out right on
that's
for our
fine.
listeners.
Yeah.
Like,
so for those who don't know what he just said, normal stud assemblies of a single top. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true.
So normal, like conventional construction would be a 2x4 on 16-inch.
Yeah, but it would still have a double
top plate.
Yeah.
And some, depending to what degree on this spectrum, some advanced framing, like an advanced framing like Die Hard, would be single top plate.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really trying to eliminate every piece of thermal break possible. But between you and me, overkill is underrated.
Yeah.
And you should double top plate.
Top plate.
But the difference that for listeners that we should clarify is the 16 OC or on center versus 24 OC on center. And this refers to inches between the center of your first vertical stud to the center of your next vertical stud. And if you draw an imaginary line from the center to the center and pull a tape measure, it should be 16 inches, exactly about 14 and a half in between them.
Yep, you got it.
And that is, I mean, more or less how houses are being built since Sears and Roebuck kits or before.
Yeah, totally.
And the, first of all, you get to save a whole bunch of money by going from 16 to 24.
Especially these days with the cost of lumber.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's absolutely a third time. Yeah. That's big. The cost of lumber is not to be excused. And if you have your, engineered house correctly, that allows for a bigger chunk of insulation. And for those who may not know, which I would assume is most listeners, the R value, which is how good your house is at, keeping in your heat and keeping in your air conditioning, is infinitely worse from when it's a piece of wood versus a giant chunk of insulation. Even an air bubble is better than a piece of wood.
Yeah.
So if you can have a piece of wood and then insulation and a piece of wood 16 inches, those two chunks of wood are way worse than if you can have wood and then 24 inches and then wood. You have literally more chunks of insulation, which just ups your R value tremendously.
Yeah, you got it, man. Yep.
So just to geek out for listeners.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I love it. And so we ran our stud layout on 24s, and then we use Zip R, which has that 1 inch of insulation, polyiso rigid insulation on the inside of the sheathing. So up against that stud is an inch of polyiso insulation, and then on the outside of that is your zip sheathing.
So you put up the inch foam rigid board.
Well, and if you buy the Zip R, it comes like pre-assembled. So in one move.
Oh, this is a product that's all in one.
Yes,
the foam and
all
the OSB.
in one, and I love it. It's pricey, but you're doing this in one movement. So if you're thinking about labor costs,
much less.
In terms of so now you got your built-in thermal break, so no thermal bridge in between. That's going to go from the sheathing to your stud,
and then you could put the battens and your siding.
Exactly.
So you could have a thermal break and an air pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So then
if you spray foamed,
and then on the outside of that Zip R, we put the rain screen. We used the Benjamin Opdyke, which on a cost evaluation, really not that much. It was like $300 for the whole house. It's not much, that's pretty small cost for lifetime benefit.
Yeah, and so labor wise, who's putting that up? Is that a siding contractor?
So that's where, as you make these changes to the conventional construction, that's where the GC, the project management, or site supervisor, you need to make sure you're not missing these gaps. probably pretty reasonable to ask a siding contractor to put that up.
Right.
And
Because then they are still getting handed a dried in house.
Oh, yeah.
With
Yeah.
windows
Yeah.
done.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just being like,
Yeah.
okay, you're putting up this thing that's just going to bump all your siding out however long. And, your siding guy can then trim out windows an extra inch, or if you're using metal, bend metal an extra inch or whatever.
Exactly. And if you've planned everything out in advance, you can think about that when you're ordering your windows,
Bump them out.
bump them out. So you got your jams built out on the inside. That house, we use Marvin windows, really nice, like casement windows. For the most part, we do have a big slider with a fixed middle in the middle. And then we put up Nichiha. It's cement board panels. And then on top of that, we ran battens, the Miratech battens. And so that is a...
Whoa. There's like 11 layers here.
So there's a lot of layers. So you
went stud, and then the foam OSB all in one.
Yep.
Then you tape your seams. Then you use the rain guard.
Tape your seam and FortiFlash. I like to teach both of those approaches.
What's the FortiFlash?
And the FortiFlash is a nice product. So depending on on an inside corner, for instance. So we have this big bay window that we built into the cottage. And by the way, to digress just a minute, we built the cottage. We have plans. I worked with an architect, Mike Spinello, awesome dude, who, by the way, went to the Rural Studio for his architecture degree. So he and I worked together to develop the plans for this cottage. We built it. We framed it out, and a couple students were like, "Oh, it would look really great if that bay window were bumped out." In this living room, open space, floor plan area of the cottage. And so we bumped it out. So we went back.
Change order.
Yeah, exactly. Because what project happens without a change order? I've yet to meet one.
Oh,
and so
there is not one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, help students feel comfortable with the whole notion of change order. How do you do it? You got to price it out. You got to reschedule all of your trades, etc. But then you can just get in there with a sawzall and cut open the wall. So we cut a big old hole in the wall and pulled the window out, pulled the wall out, reframed it. Sister joists to extend the floor joist out for this bay, and then rebuilt it and put it all back. It was totally fun and well worth the effort of doing that. So backing up. All right, so you got studs, your zip R, which includes that 1 inch of polyiso rigid insulation, the tape, the FortiFlash, so that bay window has inside corners. That's hard to tape, right? To get the tape to fold on an inside corner. So that's where you use FortiFlash, which is like a caulk.
Okay.
And does the same thing as the tape. That's a great product for around hose bibs, hard to tape areas, right? And then we put up the rain screen. And then on top of the rain screen, the Nichiha cement board panels, 4-foot wide panels. And then covering the nail pattern, the fastening schedule on those panels, are 2 1/4 Miratech battens. So it looks like
almost looks like T111.
Looks more like the board, like a traditional board and batten.
Okay. Yeah. So my
finish.
buddy Jeremy, who's actually been on the podcast, when we did his house, I don't know if it was the Nietzsche. What was the brand?
Nichiha.
I don't know if it was the Nichiha brand.
James Hardy makes it too.
But he used a Hardy, and it came 4x10.
Yes. Yeah.
Cement, and instead of batten, it's in a metal channel type of thing.
Oh yeah.
The
Okay.
channel got nailed up. The thing went into the channels. So it's flush.
So it's flush.
And then he just painted the whole house.
And he's done it. Was that a smooth or was that a wood grain?
It's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we did a smooth. In years past, we've done wood grain. They got like this faux wood grain.
Yeah. He did smooth because in his personal situation, he wanted smooth because the wood grain, he did real cedar.
Yes.
Clear coat.
Oh, dude, that's
around
awesome.
all the windows.
Oh man,
So
we've done that
pops.
same thing.
Yeah.
We've done that exact same thing. We've like boxed out around the windows with real cedar, and then years back, going back, like when I first started at CCCC, we did real wood siding, real wood board and batten that we got locally from a sawmill, and then we sugiban, like we burn the wood.
Oh wow!
And
that's a process.
That was gorgeous. It's a process, but so I got the luxury of having like a 12-person work crew.
Yeah, right. Well, you have a student army.
You know?
Yeah.
So like 12-person work crew twice a week. So we could do like we could afford to do these like extras.
So you're not hiring anybody?
No. When I first started, the reason I got that job was the school was hiring me and my company to come in and sort of get the build caught up back to speed so students could get back to learning.
Okay. And you came in and you were like, I can do this with slave labor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I can do this without just students. I think at first I was hiring out for insulation and sheetrock.
Right.
Last year, we did the whole shebang with just student labor.
Yeah.
So students, we insulated it. We hung the sheetrock. We didn't quite get finished with all the mud work, but and then when we auction this, by the way, we get it to a stopping point. So we've got permits on this. We've done our inspections, rough in insulation inspection. And then we get it to a stopping point, we auction it, we close out our permit, we hand it over to whoever wins, and they open the new permit, they get a final, and when they do that, they're going to need to like trim out the electric, trim out the plumbing.
So you're not auctioning a move-in ready home. You're auctioning a home that like has all the guts, but still needs like baseboards and final light fixtures. And does it have the kitchen cabinets?
So not this year.
Okay.
1 year that we did this, we got it to move in ready.
But the plumbing is roughed in, and
plumbing is roughed in. In fact, this year we've got like probably about 3/4 of the shower is been tiled with subway tile. 1 year we did custom cabinetry for the bathroom and the kitchen. So we did have cabinets. So every year we have flexibility based on some student interest. And if I've got a group of students that really wants to learn cabinetry,
you'll build the cabinets.
We'll build some cabinets, you know.
Gotcha.
And,
that's cool because you can focus more on another, you know, if you're like, well, everybody really is interested in trim. Let's get to trim as quickly as we can. Or people, for some reason, the crew wants to learn about how to install, how to frame. Let's frame something
we
cool.
got it. We're doing the framing for sure. Yeah. You know, we're getting it every year. We get it through at least the insulation. With COVID, we got it through just the insulation, no sheetrock or anything. But you know, so it varies every year a little bit based on, you know, the student group.
Right. And it's going to change a little bit moving forward because Habitat is obviously not going to accept not finished and also not going to give you the same leeway or the same budget. So you're going to have to alter slightly.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is kind of been a lot of fun too, because now students get to see what it's like to work with a client, so to speak.
Right, which is the worst part of construction.
Exactly.
If you could just build houses for yourself and never have to report to anybody, it would be the most amazing thing ever.
You can't. We can't just make these decisions like, oh, let's bump out the bay window.
Yeah, now you've got to go through whoever makes that decision, and you've got to provide probably like a flawless budget for the change order that has to be stuck to.
Yeah,
you know, because it's different. Yeah. So like I'm kind of in the former, not the latter, whereas like my people that I report to are family / partners.
Oh dude, you're in the best boat possible.
Yeah. Because I don't have to necessarily like get permission for stuff.
Right.
I have, you know, the ability to be like, we just need the driveway longer.
Yeah.
And I just know I can make 4 phone calls
Yep.
to 3 partners.
Yep.
And we're all going to come to the same conclusion.
Yep.
And then I'm okay. Or I could just do it.
Yeah.
So it's but also I'm in a unique building situation. We buy these houses, we keep these houses.
Yeah.
I think about how they're going to rent and how they're going to resale at the same time. And that is a tightrope I've gotten used to walking, which is difficult because obviously wasting all your budget on a house that's a rental makes no sense.
Right.
But you can't sell a rental for non-rental money.
Right.
If it looks like a rental. So
Right.
you better put in nice countertops.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. It's a tightrope. Everything's like an equation.
Right.
That you gotta balance out all the pieces.
And then the equation gets even more complicated because personally we get a house that you got to factor. So we buy a house, then we got to put $100,000 into it.
Yeah.
And then that house, let's say we bought $100,000 house, that $200,000 house is in an area where that house is only worth $115,000.
Oh yeah.
So we have to factor in even more of an equation of, okay, we're only going to get monthly rental back for this,
right?
But we need it to survive renters. So the Formica countertop is going to have a burn mark.
Oh, totally.
So you could spend 2 Formicas, or 1 granite, and that will last forever.
So that's interesting. That's a good, that's an interesting equation. So granite countertops you're finding are worth the cost because of their.
It's not even a question.
Yeah.
So it's not even I'll make up numbers.
Yeah.
If your granite countertop costs $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And your Formica costs $1,000.
Right. It's going to be half. Yeah.
It's going to be half.
At least.
It's going to be half.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's going to be more than half.
Yeah.
It's going to be $1,100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate enough to have 2-year renters.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, they move out.
How's the house playing out? Yeah.
And I got to replace the Formica.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've already experienced that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that Formica, now I've spent $2,200
in 2 years' time.
Yeah. Or I could have just dropped the $2,000 day one.
Yeah.
Had it in my budget day one.
Yep.
I get a nicer product.
Yep.
I get, I don't mind spending a little more on a sink that's undermounted.
Yep.
With granite because it's worthwhile.
Yep.
And then, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other if you want to get a matching 4 to 6 inch backsplash or you want to go tile.
Yeah.
That's so we flip the deck once in a while.
Sure.
But that right there, I have saved the money.
Yeah.
And the hassle more than anything.
Right.
The hassle, nobody factors that in, I figure.
Oh, the hassle's huge.
The hassle is one of the biggest things of being a general contractor, honestly, and being a property manager.
That's right.
And people don't factor that in enough.
Yeah.
The mental, and people deal with mental stuff differently.
Right.
But for me, just the mental of, that Formica was brand new when I rented you this house, Karen.
Right.
Now it's screwed. Now there's 3 burn marks.
Yep.
I can't re-rent this.
Yep.
I have to pull it out.
Yep.
I've got to pay to take it to the dump.
Yeah.
I've got to go get my granite guy.
Yeah.
He's got to come. He's got to measure. It's going to take a week. I got to pause on the painter, pause on the pictures. So it's just why? All of that hassle is a whole nother $1,000 as far as I'm concerned.
Totally.
So now it's $3,100.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've just lit it on fire.
So have you had a house yet where folks have moved out and it was a granite countertop?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how'd that granite countertop look?
So with the exception of the first house that we no longer own.
Yeah.
That had this burn mark situation.
Yep.
On the island, I should clarify.
Yeah.
We've actually never put in the Formica in North Carolina because my parents learned this lesson before I even got in the industry.
Okay, got it.
But we bought a kitchen island from IKEA that was butcher block.
Oh yeah, I used to have one of those.
It's great.
Oh, I loved it.
Mine
has a burn mark on it.
There you go.
Or in that farmhouse I was telling you
There
about
you go.
earlier. Yep.
So we just took 300 from the security deposit. And, which if we're being completely fair, is low. 300 was what it cost.
Totally, yeah.
300 was what
man.
it cost.
Yeah,
That's not what it cost me to drive to IKEA 2 hours to Charlotte.
I
each
wish
way
I still had that
and
that
assemble
island,
it.
Yeah.
We ended up. I ended up just sanding it down and refinishing it.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So no big deal.
That's what I did.
But I still by myself had to get it to the doorway where it then didn't fit. Then I had to take the top off the frame, put it on sawhorses, sand it in the hood on the freaking lawn, and finish it, all this crap, right? But we have had no problems with any of our countertops with move outs with the granite, and we're talking cheap level 1.
Wow,
like
that's cool.
We're not going for level 2, 3 or quartz.
Very cool.
So
like that decision making is like you build it once forever. And that's like the difference between putting siding on a house without a rain screen. And now, like, let's say if it's wood siding, well, it's going to rot.
Yeah.
You know, and I've worked on houses, brand new houses, 5 years old, extensive rot damage.
So we're not adding rain screens, but we are building, thinking about like, well, we want this house to last and be flawless 10 years from now when we sell it.
Yeah. Totally.
So like, when we put, new vinyl up, I'm like very adamant that, the Tyvek is done correctly and taped correctly. We're putting in new windows. So by the time you do new windows, new Tyvek, new siding and then we've opened that up to then replace any rotten framing.
Yeah.
So like we're not doing that rain screen. We'll be honest. Full disclosure,
Totally.
We have not. We've not really come across that kind of rot.
Exactly. So like, and you got to ask yourself, like, in each situation, you got to look at the construction details and the system. So another big thing that I'm a huge advocate of is looking at your construction details as a system. Like earlier, you were just like, oh, so how many layers is that? 11 layers, right? That's the right kind of thinking. You look at that from one side to the other. Like, what is that? What are all the parts of that whole system? How do they interact with each other? Do they work with the systems that they're next to?
Right.
And then you can reach all kinds of conclusions. Like, maybe in one situation, the rain screen's the right approach. Maybe in another situation, a dimpled Tyvek, a dimpled house wrap is the right solution. Maybe in another situation, just plain old Tyvek is the right solution. So it's like asking yourself these questions, looking at it critically, and thinking it through for the long term is, I think, the right approach. All that upfront planning versus the way it's done, which is there's no thought in it at all. You just put it up this way because this is the way you know how to put it up.
So we're taking that energy that you're describing and putting it into our foundation, waterproofing, and water diversion.
Oh, that's huge.
Because those are in our, and there's a million ways to eat a Reese's, right?
Yep.
In our, in the houses we're building, in the areas that we're building, for the money we're spending, for the money they will sell.
Right.
No client who wants a rain screen is coming down, fill in the blank street on a house that I own.
Yeah, they're probably not going to buy something. They're not going to buy. It'd be silly to put rain screen on a vinyl house, for instance.
Right, but also it'd be silly to put a rain screen on a house that's never going to be worth the money that a house with a rain. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
exactly.
These are not good neighborhoods. You know what I mean?
It's the value. It's that you're talking about these like first time home buyer, like
100%.
Exactly.
And then, but nobody wants to walk into a house of any value and feel unlevel floors, crappy foundation,
totally,
or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we take a little bit extra than the average builder when we are waterproofing our foundation, and our foundation drainage system is what I would deem overkill.
Awesome.
And we also every house now it's an added expense that not everybody can do.
Yeah.
We put,
Yeah.
everybody does gutters, but we do buried in the ground, solid PVC.
Oh, nice.
Gutter
Yep.
connect,
Yep.
like all the way around
Yep.
and run to the street
That's awesome.
all the way on
That's
every
awesome.
house.
That's awesome.
Because it's just like, it became a joking saying when my friend and I during COVID were doing my shower, but it has become a very real saying that I've used, quote, end quote, water is the enemy.
Oh, totally.
Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Your
Exactly.
shower, your roof, your carpet, even. Like
Yep.
water is the enemy of all construction. Like,
That's right.
and it'll find the easiest, smallest route that
Yeah.
you don't expect.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So we've taken, like all those things that I've mentioned, the factors of like, it's just really not the right neighborhood. This is not $1 million house in Chapel Hill or inside the belt line of Raleigh.
Yeah,
So,
but man, it's like so that Samuel Mockbee I was talking about earlier. He said something like, "Everybody deserves architecture of decency."
yeah.
So we all deserve like a solid, well-built house, be it modest with vinyl siding or, more upscale. And so that extra care and attention, I think that's important. And I think that's a value and an ethic that we try to like incorporate in our classroom. Number one, I want my students to be able to go out and get jobs and fill that huge workforce need. But then number two, do that with integrity. Do that with care and attention to the small details so that it will last a long time.
There's corners that get cut from, and I only do positive shout outs on this podcast, so we're not going to name any names, but there are definitely builders that the same corners get cut.
Sure.
Not necessarily even because they know it's wrong, just because
Right.
it saves a lot of time and a lot of money, and the likelihood of whatever the example is breaking is so low that they're just like, we don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I just refuse to let those corners get cut because I'm the landlord.
Nice.
And like, if you rent a house from me 5 years from now, I'm still going to be the one who has to fix the towel rod.
Right.
If I didn't make my framer put in a chunk of wood and we screw it to the wood instead of a crappy wall anchor. Like nobody cares about that.
So that, by the way, is another one of those checklist items on that system vision third party. Like there's a requirement that you put some blocking in the bathroom for towel rods. It's also for grab bars. Grab bars.
Totally.
So that you can age in place.
Yeah.
So if you're going to build a house, build it forever, build it universal design so that you can get old in that house. And if you have trouble walking, you got something to grab onto.
I mean, I think that's really smart. Finding studs is not always easy and triply hard through tile.
Yeah.
So
hey,
I love
curious. So what kind of floors are you putting down in these houses?
We are putting down. So the first house, we made a mistake for sure. We carpeted the stairs and the second level. We tiled both bathrooms, and then we put down a glue down product.
Okay.
With like a roller, like a 100-pound roller.
Was it like a vinyl?
Yeah, it's like a vinyl plank type of thing.
Yep.
That floor, still flawless. We've since sold that house, but the carpet was a huge mistake.
Okay. But the glue down vinyl was a good product. Yep.
Then the second house, I was against my partner's wishes. I was very adamant about one house, one floor, like one flooring. So
gotcha.
The entire house has a floating snap and click, waterproof, like solid kind of planking thing. And to this day, I'm not sure if the foundation settled, the floor was defective, it was installed incorrectly, but the long and short, we had to rip the entire thing up after two tenants due to 2 1-year-long tenants. So it didn't even last 2 years. I think it was more the second tenant. They admitted that they loved to like an old school mop. And I told them very clearly that like this is a snap and click product floating on top of self-leveling cement.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for that water to go.
Yeah.
So just buy a Swiffer.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So all those tongue and grooves got drenched and swelled.
Yeah.
And also they had a dog crate that they didn't move. And I could see like a line of a pee crate stain. From a year of not training their dog. But anyway, I don't want to get into that crap.
Yeah. So
after
that not a good product. Or it didn't work in terms of that longevity.
So after that house, and since we have put down the same floor, back to the glue down vinyl. And it comes in, 6 by 36. So it's a nice plank.
Yeah.
It's got a faux wood style finish.
Yeah.
It has no, backer.
Yeah.
So it's just the vinyl. It's very thin. It's commercial grade. My mother gets it through her dealings as being, an interior designer her whole life. So it's a commercial grade product. So it holds up against everything.
Yeah.
And it allows any flexibility you want. You can glue it down to, you just notch trowel the glue, 20 minutes later, pop it in place with your hand. You cut it with the shears and you roll it with a 100-pound roller, and that's it. And if you want, you can do it up against the base and then shoe nose. Or you can do it up against the wall, base, no shoe nose. It's waterproof, so we do bathroom, kitchen, the whole house.
The whole house.
No transitions under doors, which is great.
Yeah, that's great.
And
a clean look.
And we had one tenant, I guess they didn't put the feet on the bottom of their bed frame, so we got real deep scratches.
Yeah.
Cut out the one piece.
Oh, no way.
Scrape up the glue.
Yep.
Glue down a new piece.
Oh, dude.
So every house, nobody orders flooring without extra boxes.
Yeah.
I hand them to the tenant and go, make room.
Yeah.
I don't care where you put them. Make room.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, your entire security deposit is going to me.
Yeah.
Because it's way more to replace your whole house.
Yeah.
But if you keep this box in a closet and you mess up one or two pieces, that's $100.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, hell, the last two houses have been the same, the same color, the same, I got 6 extra boxes. Don't order as much.
Yeah.
And I have, once again, the next house will be the same floor. It's sitting in my garage.
Yep.
We have, we'll order probably 5 more boxes because we have 16 of them or something.
Yeah. You figured out what works, man.
Yeah. I mean, we love dogs in our family. So we are a pet friendly renter.
Totally. Me too. Yep.
That is less common than you would think. There's a lot of no animals allowed people who rent houses, which is just heartbreaking.
Dogs just add so much to
couldn't live a life without a dog.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
You met Willie earlier.
Yeah.
And so we immediately are like, well, we love dogs. So bring your dog, bring your pet of any kind. The floor will hold up.
Yeah.
We're I think even nicer than some others. We do no extra a month. We just do a one-time pet fee.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
One-time pet fee.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of apartments that are it's $350 a pet and $40 a month.
Yeah.
And it's it's a pet, not a gold brick. What do you think is right? So I just those apartment complexes, I don't like that. Because it's second-class pet citizen. I don't anyway.
Yeah.
Tangent. So the flooring, once we figured out what worked, I mean, it just saves so much time and energy. I mean, transition strips between rooms is eliminated.
Yeah.
All together.
Yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Bathroom, it's waterproof.
Yeah.
We don't tile the bathroom, just right up to the tub and then glue down PVC shoe nose against the tub. Done. Yeah. I mean, it's an easy product, and when you have a slightly unlevel floor, you can just go down with a very minimal self-leveler and throw down a skim coat on your whole thing.
Yeah.
And then it's even easier to install.
It fixes it. Yeah.
So it's just, I've seen it done both. In fact, I have two rentals next to each other, literally. It's with the same floor, one without the skim, one with the skim. They look the same.
Looks the same.
Yeah.
That's
just
cool.
one was a little less level than the other. Yeah. After we shored the foundation, it was well, it's secure, but it's not perfect. Yeah, skim coat it. Done. Yeah. And then also something that a lot of people don't think of, I don't have to trim doors that come in their prefabbed frames 4.5 hardwood.
Right.
So it's just a lot of things get easier or just eliminated.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we do for floors, and we're sticking with it 100%. Yeah.
Dude, sounds like you got that part figured out. Yep.
Yeah. Once we found that commercial grade. Yeah. So like floors and granite countertop kitchen. We're not
anything else that you have like hit on that you like, oh, this is the way to do it. Are you sealing your crawl spaces? What are you doing with your crawl spaces?
So crawl spaces, we've done both.
Yeah.
It depends. So again, we're buying a product.
Right.
We're not building from scratch. If we were building from scratch, sealed all the way.
Yeah.
I'd spray down the walls and I'd do nothing in the floor.
Yep. Exactly.
So we've done that.
That's what we recommend when we
that's the way to go now.
Yeah.
Totally, it's still an option, but I honestly think code will change. That it is just going to become the way.
Especially the hot, humid South. Like it's just a no-brainer, man. It's so much.
I got
cleaner.
a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you putting your like HVAC inside the home, inside the envelope,
in the crawl space?
That's not in the envelope. That's not the same.
Well, we're recommending that whoever buys the cottage, we recommend that they encapsulate the crawl space. So it's going to have, your CMU, typically your 8-inch CMU walls, no vents.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple different ways that you can approach that. I'm a big fan of that Neopore product, which has graphite built into it, and it's an R10. And then you put your heat pump in your crawl space. You put your hot water heater in your crawl space. And so it's within that conditioned space. And then you're putting all that stuff in that conditioned space in that crawl space. And I've sort of oversimplified it a little bit.
No, I feel like that's good.
Yeah.
Are you using like tankless gas water heaters?
Well, so we don't do that part of it. With Habitat this year, we'll be doing that. So I don't know yet if
then you got to vent that if it's
inside. You got to vent.
That's why I was asking.
Especially if it's gas. Yeah, exactly.
That's why I was asking because it's just like another thing.
Yeah. So in this house that we just bought in Carborough, so one of the first things I did was I encapsulated crawl space, and so this house was built in '82. I yanked all that insulation, that old nasty fiberglass, out from underneath the floor joist. Got it all out, cleaned the whole space real well, and encapsulated it. But we have a natural gas heat pump furnace in that crawl space that I then had to make sure was properly ducted to the outside, for your exhaust air and your intake air.
Yeah, or you'll die of monoxide.
Carbon monoxide
poisoning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I put a new carbon
No,
monoxide.
it's more crucial than people think.
Oh, it's deadly. I mean, it kills people every year. And so anyway, and then called the heating and air contractors that put that system in and had them come check it. And already the humidity level in the house is dropped. So there's still a couple things I'm missing somewhere, and I think it's in the ceiling assembly. And it's clear that this house that was built in 86, they had replacement windows put in at some point. And some of and they have the house has 3 glass sliding doors. I can't stand them. They've got that integrated divided light. Once we got the money, we're going to yank those things out and do an upgrade there. But I did pull the trim off, and I found that there was no insulation around those windows. Around those doors.
They didn't.
So
do like
behind
a
the
can of
jams,
spray foam.
nobody put it. So I'm wondering if that's the case on the rest of the windows.
Most likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately. Not to
yeah.
be like, duh, but
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if they skipped it there.
Exactly. Why wouldn't they skip it everywhere else?
Skip it everywhere else?
So there's
unfortunately.
So there's a few more things that I've got to do to get the house to a
and with
performance
your
level.
and with your knowledge and life experience, you're not hiring for anything you can do.
Yeah, I'm doing everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything.
Yeah. I did hire a couple former students to come help me with that crawl space.
So these students are not necessarily going from your program to being a GC. They're more like becoming laborers. Like they're running a siding company or
typically,
building company.
So they're kind of entering the job market like from the whole spectrum from, I've got one student. He started a framing business and he is rocking and rolling. Another student, she started a contracting business and she's rocking and rolling. She's doing a lot of kitchen and bathroom remodels, and doing a lot of design work. But she's doing a lot of projects. She isn't hitting that $30,000 mark yet, but she
in order to get her license.
License, but as soon as she's on her way to getting her license and surpassing that $30,000 mark. So they're on, sort of one end of the spectrum where they've become entrepreneurs. And then on the other end, some of my students are entering, as laborers. Others are like higher up that ladder. I've got some students that are working as site supervisors, some lead framers.
So the spectrum is full.
It's full.
It's just full.
It's the whole game.
People come from everywhere to take your class and end up everywhere.
Yeah. One year I did a poll and I had half my class was driving an hour or more to do the program. There's not a lot of programs out there that are doing this kind of hands-on approach. There's some, but
no, I don't. I have. Let's be fair. I haven't looked into them, but I know no other programs where you're actually building and getting credit.
That's
amazing.
It's really fun. And then I was going to make some of our students have also entered the field on the other end of. This was really fun last year when I called for the rough-in inspection. Our local Chatham County building inspector showed up.
Your former student?
Well, in tow, because you got to do that shadow. You got to shadow an inspector for, I think it's like
the inspector in training.
The inspector in training was a former student.
That's amazing.
So it was great, man. It was like total full circle, and was thrilled to see that. So.
I don't know you that well, but I would imagine that's gotta feel good.
Oh, that felt
that's
great.
Gotta just feel cool.
It really did. Like, it really did.
That it actually can't,
Yeah.
I'm assuming he was a relatively young guy.
Yeah.
Could have been lost in life. Who knows?
Yep.
Finds your program. Now all of a sudden, like state inspector or whatever, city inspector. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's why you do it. That's
why I do it. And then out of that experience, I think that story got around at Central Permitting. And I was able to, so our local central permitting lent us the experienced inspector as an instructor to teach our codes and inspections class. So he's coming back next semester, as a matter of fact.
Do you need a how to do a flip that you keep as a rental class?
Oh, dude, yeah, man, we're gonna have to stay in touch.
We're gonna have to. Yeah. I would love to do it.
Dude,
or even just like a guest.
Oh man,
for a day.
that would be such a popular class. There's so many people that are interested in that.
Because the like you were asking earlier, like the things I've learned are not the things that every flipper is doing.
Right.
So there's like a niche that, there's a niche that I'm happy to be in.
Yes.
That I would be happy to explain about. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be,
totally.
that would be rad.
Yeah.
That would be super
and so and what you're doing is it's important because, all right, so the construction sector is the largest, if you were to take a look at the United States, construction sector is the largest contributor to climate change. We produce the most CO2 output of any sectors as one entity. We're around like 39%, depending which stats that you look at.
I was going to say, depending on those stats, must be a crucial sentence.
Yeah, but like if you think about construction, it's got transportation in it. You're talking about concrete. Concrete.
Are you also referring to the the footprint of the building after.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
well, that's
the
not
built
fair.
environment. Well, but
because all
but it
commercial
is, but
buildings are
think-
constructed
exactly,
as well.
but think
so
about
like
it,
the
like-
output of a giant skyscraper is not fair. It's so much energy put out.
Yeah, but that's the equation, man. It's like the built environment. It's not just the cost of building it. It's the cost of that thing. Excuse me. For the rest of its like usable life. So like every year it continues to like consume energy. And that output all stems from how it was built.
So buying an EV is doing nothing if we don't make all our buildings better.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
It's the
that's
big,
what you were getting to.
That's
felt
what
like
I was
that
getting to. That's
yeah.
exactly. So like you taking that extra care on these rentals is actually a big deal.
Yeah.
Because now that person's not going to have to crank their thermostat and crank that
true.
CO2 output.
It's true. It is. It doesn't necessarily directly save me anything except I get, you know what it does? It gets me a better class of tenant.
Yes.
And
yes,
it's
I can
not,
see that.
It's like when Chris Hawks talked about it when I had him as a guest, because he's the guy who finds my tenants.
Oh, nice.
For Western Woodall. Shout out Chris, big fan. So like he's just like, you guys do it right. Like he doesn't elaborate. It's just like, you guys do it right. Like he walks through my houses when they're framed before sheetrock, and he's just like, man, I wouldn't have thought of that. Like we do silly things, but we do things that add up when you add up these things. Like nobody is putting a centralized shelf that is above your head solely for your internet router that has its own
nice.
power outlet and has its own coax box run to the outside, so that Spectrum could just plug it in and you're done. No one's doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody has it in the bottom of a closet. Everybody knows, but nobody cares that you want the signal center and high.
Yeah.
So that it reaches all your devices.
Yeah.
The internet is not a luxury anymore.
Right.
It's required for your alarm and your Netflix and your phone.
Classes.
Or
during
classes.
COVID, we were online for a lot of this stuff.
Fill in the blank. It's now required.
Yeah.
So like, that's something I think of because I am, even though I own a house, I am closer to the market of people who are renting.
Yeah.
So I can think more like them.
Yeah.
And I also have had the benefit of some renters becoming friends.
Yeah.
And straight up being like, yo, this worked.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, this sucks.
Yeah.
That's way more interesting to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I had one tenant. This is a unique situation that most people would not have. But I had one tenant go from one house to another house of mine.
Wow.
They watched the house next door get built.
Yeah.
And they were like, we want this one.
Oh,
I was like, well, it's this
like,
much.
that one's better.
If you want it. And they were like, we can afford it. We're moving in. I was like, great.
Yeah.
And then I raised the rent of the other one. It was perfect.
Yeah.
But they were like, hey, the first house they were in, they were like, this closet location couldn't have been worse.
Yeah.
It was like terrible for move in, terrible for move out, was oriented, just everything. And I was like, nobody would really be in a situation to get that input.
Yeah.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of builders are not selling their houses and then going back a year later and being like, hey, what do you love and what do you hate?
Right.
That's not happening to my knowledge.
Yeah.
So that input, I'm super lucky that I get that.
Yeah.
And I listen.
Oh, dude, it's so important to listen.
Yeah.
It is so important to keep those relationships so that you can monitor and you can improve. Like, I've been thinking about this. So I was thinking about our program and I was thinking about a tagline, and it's like design, build, evaluate, and then excel, right? But you got to evaluate. And the only way, in your case, like the evaluation is through dialogue with your your renters and having those open conversations. I do it with my students. I have them evaluate themselves. I have them evaluate me, the class, etc., so that we can figure out what's not working and then make improvements. That, to circle back to the beginning of our conversation, that third-party certification, that's that evaluation.
Right.
That helps the builder if they're honest and open to improving, if they have that dialogue with that third party, rater, they can then make these changes in the house and increase the performance, the value, the quality, all of these things to make ultimately this thing more comfortable for somebody to live in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just boils down to like a consistency of learning.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
like
man.
The younger you are, the less you think you need to know. The older you get, the more you realize you don't know anything.
Exactly.
And it's like, like constantly, especially, I mean, I don't think this industry is unique in its consistent of change.
Yeah.
I mean, an insulated zip panel did not exist 20 years ago.
No.
Plywood only came around in the 50s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about the progression of houses, I mean, it's the same as technology. The technology's fed into this industry, just like our phone industry. So it's like, it's insane what we build with now, even the power tools we use.
Right.
Yeah.
The batteries, everything going cordless,
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to that point of it being important, so these improvements in the built environment has a big impact on this planet. Like, to think about that is kind of, I think it's a cool thing. And it's beyond us. These decisions that we're making, your decision to use spray foam, that decision has an impact beyond you, your tenants. It's a planetary, granted, it's just, one house at a time is just a drop in the bucket, but enough of those drops in the bucket, now we're changing the way that we've done something to something more positive.
Yeah, man, that's well said. I mean, I would obviously think that like solar and the wind energy, the turbines are leading the way on how we renew the energy, but making us just need less of it altogether. That's a good. We're going at it from both ends now.
Yeah, exactly. Going at it from both ends.
If you just need less panels because the house is built better.
Yep.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I guess let's wrap it up with, how do people take your class? Where do people find you?
So we've got an online presence. We've got so cccc.edu. So it's 4 C's and then .edu. I'm Jeff Gannon, Building Construction Technologies. My information's all online. Feel free to shoot me an email, phone call. I try to make myself very accessible. And your classes, how long and how much? So they vary, but I tell you, the community college system, which you just can't beat it for the price. I mean, the credit per hour is super cheap. Most, depending on what credential you're going for, like most students are getting out. Oh gosh.
You could ballpark it.
Yeah, I want to say it's like, it's running like for like a set of classes for the year, like full time is less than $2,000.
Oh, a full time student.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's so many like services and we've got financial aid and so forth, and all kinds of pathways too for folks to come into the program. Like, I've got a kid that's in high school right now. And some of these high school kids have been phenomenal. I've got some really cool success stories there. So all kinds of pathways come into the program. Reach out to me and I'll help. My job is to talk to folks and help them figure out what they want to do and best way to get there.
Right. Awesome.
And we're here to serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, one last thing you just mentioned real quick is you have a lot of high school students, and I just, like, when I was younger, that was a frowned upon pathway. You had to go to college, and that was the end of the conversation.
Yep.
And I just want to say, as somebody who went to college and now swings a hammer for a living, I would not take away my college experience ever, but I very much want to, one interview at a time, get rid of the stigma that leaving high school and going to a trade school and working for an hourly wage as a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, a GC, whatever, there is nothing wrong with that. It is a fantastic living. You meet people, you make things, you work with your hands. People have been doing this for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. So I just want to drop that real quick, and on a positive note. When
amen to that for sure. So I'm 51, and I think I was 48, 49 when I finished paying off grad school. I could have done that. I mean, I'm very grateful, like you, that I went to grad school. But there's all kinds of ways to learn stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to sink a bunch of money into it. And there's pride and integrity in the trades.
Yeah. And just so we're real clear, everybody should have very much pride and integrity in their degree. I'm not trying to shit on anybody's degree.
Yes.
Even if you are an English major and you're working at a gas station, like, follow your passion, and I hope you're a famous poet. Like, let's be real clear. I just want to make sure everyone knows that if you're a high school student randomly listening to my podcast thinking about being a construction person, I know you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year being a GC.
Super rewarding career. I've loved every bit of it.
Yeah. So just don't let anybody shoot down that stigma. If you're, I've beaten that one dead, but
awesome.
If you get in touch with Jeff at everything he mentioned, 4cccc4cs.edu. Man, say that 20 times
I know,
fast.
Seriously, it's a mouthful.
And obviously on that website, Jeff Gannon with a G, you can find all his information. And Jeff, I just want to really thank you again for making the time. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it.
Man, it's been a real pleasure to be here. I'm really glad that Roxanne connected us.
Absolutely. And shout out to Roxanne again.
I look forward to watching your podcast grow and listening to episodes. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. All right. Bye, everybody.